Please give a warm welcome to Vanessa Shealy Younger.
I think that meeting your significant other's parents for the first time is always an important milestone, and for me it was especially important because my husband and I were in an interracial relationship. You're going to meet him in a little while. My husband is a black man and I'm a white woman. Where we live in New York City and we think of ourselves as open-minded, we're surrounded by all this diversity, and we certainly look at each other with no prejudice or stereotype. I really wasn't at all sure that my parents would have the same attitude about it. I wasn't sure that they wouldn't. I just really couldn't remember my parents mentioning anything about race at all. It was like I had amnesia about it. But my parents were in their late 70s. They're white, obviously. They spent a large part of their life living in the Deep South in Georgia. And whereas I never heard them say, any slurs or anything, I would frequently, my parents would come out, like my dad would say stuff like, that Harry Potter, I think that's leading all those children to witchcraft. Stuff like that. So like they're really steeped in the past, this kind of like set way of thinking. My mother doesn't know how to check her email. I have to call her and talk her through, take the mouse and click the link that so that's my parents. So I was apprehensive. So my attitude was, let's just get this out in the open as soon as possible. I don't want to delay. I don't want to, lie by omission. I want to just get it out there. So my parents were coming, came to visit. We had been dating for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months, but we were officially, together. So I set up a meeting at the Neptune Diner in Astoria. So there we are, we're having breakfast, and everyone was on really good behavior, and my parents were seeming, my mother likes to ask a lot of questions. That's just her way. She's asking questions, and my father's nodding and smiling. And so then our food comes, and Rick offers to pray for our food. And if you couldn't tell from that Harry Potter comment, my parents were like, whoa. So, So Rick, we hold hands and bow our heads, and Rick starts to pray, and he comes out with, "Gracious and most powerful Heavenly Father." This is nothing I had heard. I was like, who are you? But whatever, because it was absolutely working. My parents were thrilled. They were just loving this. And that just sealed it. From that point on, he was amazing. He was the best person I had ever dated. They were completely enthralled with him. So much so that constantly my parents were looking for other things that he did. They're like, my dad's like, I bet he can sing too, can he? Yeah, Dad, Rick does sing. Well, all black people, they can sing. Dad, you can't say those things. Please just don't say those things, okay? And he would then kind of, in his most loving way, be like, well, Vanessa, I always loved black people. In the grand scheme of what I feared and where we were, this was actually a good place to be. I could work with that. Through the years, we could deal with that. But it had gone so much better than my worst fears that I felt like, oh my goodness, we're home free. We're set. Now all I have to do is meet Rick's parents, and I already felt like I knew Rick's parents because he talked about them all the time. They're super, super close. Rick's from Baltimore, and so New York and Baltimore is only like a 2.5-hour train ride. So he would go home to Baltimore like twice a month at that point. And he has a huge family. They're super, super close. Both of his parents are children of like 9 siblings, and they all had a million kids, and all those kids, they all live in Baltimore, and they all see each other all the time. So they love each other, and they talk about each other, and Rick talked about them. So I knew these people, and I knew they were going to love me. So I was ready to meet them. I'm like, let's bring it on, let's go. We have, the difficult one was out of the way. I am all set to meet your family. So, some months go by, and we hit our year anniversary, and we're serious about each other, and I still hadn't met his parents. So I start to ask, you know, hey, I feel like I should meet your parents, especially since you see them so often. You know, I think it's time for that. And what I get from Rick is, Rick has this way when he doesn't want to talk about something, he just kind of ignores. You know, he just doesn't even acknowledge that that has come up in conversation at all. And truthfully, you know, I was nervous to meet them, so I was pretty willing to be put off a little bit for a while. After more time went by, you know, and this happened over and over again, I started to question it, like, what is going on? You know, I keep asking to meet his parents, I keep getting this no reaction. So what could it possibly be? I mean, you know, I'm younger than he is. Maybe they would have a problem with a younger woman. No. I mean, the Christian thing worked, but, oh, I'm not Baptist. Maybe that's what it... Oh, I know. I figured it out. I can't believe I didn't see this before. Rick has a Baltimore girlfriend. Yeah, I became convinced that Rick had a Baltimore girlfriend. That was the reason that I had not been invited home to meet his family, and I was obsessed with it. And of course, every time I asked him about this Baltimore girlfriend, he got outraged and defensive and horrified that I asked about the Baltimore girlfriend, which convinced me that he indeed had. So I decided I would absolutely put it to the test. Thanksgiving was coming up, and I made no Thanksgiving plans. And I let him know for weeks that I had no plans. I was gonna be alone for Thanksgiving. No plans, because I thought surely he is not gonna let his girlfriend, who he claims he's so serious about and everything, be alone. This is gonna be it, right? I mean, come on, this is it. So Thanksgiving comes around, and I'm sitting on the couch in my Astoria apartment with a Swanson frozen TV dinner, alone, furious, and I was like, this is it. So I had I came up with a new plan. Rick got back from Thanksgiving. I marched him over to my computer, my desktop computer, and I used my landline to log on to the internet. And after it took, about 5 minutes, I showed him the eHarmony profile that I had created over Thanksgiving. And I was like, if you're not serious enough about me to let me meet your parents, I'm interested in finding someone that is. So this was my little, whatever. It totally worked. 2 weeks later, I was on the train, headed to Baltimore to meet his parents. It completely worked. So when you have that thing where you're trying to win a thing, and then you kind of realize, oh, now I won. Oh, now I have to meet his parents. So I was nervous to meet his parents because that's, it's a nerve-wracking thing. So we get to Baltimore and we go into Rick's parents' house, and they're kind of oddly standing at attention. But I'm really excited to meet them. I already knew these people, so I go up to Rick's mother and I'm like, oh, Mrs. Younger, I'm so glad to meet you. I've heard so much about you. So Rick tells me that you're a first-grade teacher. Yeah? Well, right now I am working as an assistant kindergarten teacher. We have so much to talk about. So this was not the sassy black woman that I had prepared my mind for. Okay. Rick's father, completely the opposite. He's like, come on over here, girl. So I go, and he's, all warm and friendly and cozy, and this is what I thought, right? This is the warm, cozy, pop-up, right? So he's like, where are you from, girl? And I said, oh my goodness, well, I'm originally from Oklahoma City. I grew up my whole life there, but, right now I live in New York City. That's where I met Rick, but before that I lived in Georgia for a few years. And he was like, oh my goodness, this girl can talk. Marion! You heard this girl talk, ask one question, she's in here flapping her lips. Woo-wee! So it went on like that all weekend. So we all get in the car to drive to Rick's brother's house. He lives about 45 minutes away. And with Rick's parents, you get in the car and no one talks in the car. Like, no one speaks. His father plays country western music. Okay, and I'd already been accused of lip-flapping, so I was not going to say a word. So we sat there, totally silent, until we get to Rick's brother's house. When we get to Rick's brother's house, Rick's brother has set up in the living room a professional karaoke system because everyone in Rick's family sings. This is my worst nightmare. Something about my parents I didn't mention is my mother was an opera singer and a professor of voice, so I have a thing about singing. When I was a kid, my sister and I, she used to line my sister and I up in front of the piano. Anytime company came over, we had to sing Edelweiss. Yeah, my mother would coach from the keyboard. She'd be like, sing from your diaphragm, girls. You know, stuff like that. So I have a thing about it. It's like a pathology. I just can't sing. I mean, I'm not a horrible, but I'm not a singer anyway, but I just, like, I freeze up my throat, you know. So I have this, like, dread. I am going to be asked to sing, and I'm going to not seem like a team player if I don't sing karaoke. And I'm worried. All of a sudden, I'm worried. I'm freaking out. I'm trying to muster up courage to be like Cameron Diaz in My Best Friend's Wedding, where everyone applauds her spirit, even though she can't sing at all. And, you know, so I'm just really worried and caught up in it. And I must have looked worried despite my efforts to be really cool, because Rick's father, like, calls out across the living room at me. He's like, "Hey there, light skin!" He goes, "Nobody's gonna pull a knife out on you if you don't sing. We ain't those kind of black people." And whereas I breathed this huge sigh of relief because what I really heard is that I didn't have to sing. There was this collective gasp in the room of Rick's family. And they all were just so apologetic, and they came over to me and they're like, "I'm so sorry that he said that. Please just don't pay any attention to him," you know. And while these, you know, mostly the women, of course, are coming over to me, I kind of was just in this zone where I had this epiphany. I am the only white person here. I am the first white person that anyone has brought home. The reason Rick didn't want to bring me home is because I'm white. And it was like this odd, you know, this kind of realization that I had that honestly was the first of many realizations that I've had in the 10 years that we've been together, that despite all of my best efforts to be this kind of person who doesn't judge situations or people based on assumptions that I've heard from other, you know, media and movies and TV and blah, 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 that I am that person. And that despite everything that I want to be, I'm sometimes not that person, and maybe that person doesn't even exist except when our vanity tells us that we are that person, and we have a long way to go. So it was this big epiphany moment that I had when I met Rick's parents that I've continued to have for the past 10 years. And that's my story.